for Common Man. Common man, charge the housewives like no one can. What'd you shoot?
Where'd we play?
Non-stop nonsense on deck today. Tune in, it's time for Common Man.
Oh, boy. Why should anybody aspire to be a common man, an average man? Do you realize what it means to be average? That means you're the best of the lousiest, and the lousiest of the best. Now, if we demand more and more for producing less and less, while the have-not nations encourage and inspire and indeed require hard work and maximum effort, if we deify the common men while they encourage and reward the uncommon ones, well, the end result of such a lopsided race as that is too obvious to require elaboration.
I mean, it's like, hello?
We'll head to Buffalo, play on the road. I think the weather, of course, having spent a lot of time in Minnesota, I understand the weather pattern. Pick up the Calcutta Clipper, swings down, swings up, lakefront influence, and out. I think we'll probably have about 45-degree weather, so it will not be a typical October 31st in Buffalo.
Yeah, okay.
What a snag!
You're breaking up, Bob.
You're breaking up.
I mean, I try to fight fire with fire, you know.
And that's ridiculous. I've seen enough out of Cousins, Paul. Put him on ice.
I'm going to say something controversial.
That's interesting.
Time for 2 more questions, guys.
Stand up, Fort Field! Stand up!
I'm unlimited, Mr. Unlimited.
Let's play. What do you think of my defense now?
You say.
You doubted us, but now we're here.
I'm a fraud.
Yes.
He's the clown from Brown. He's the 4th in the North.
Well, there was a time.
This is the Common Man, Dan Cole.
I'm the Common Man, Dan Cole, and this is the worst all-sports radio station in the country, so says a former employee who, funny, was fired from here. I'm a radio dinosaur. Fans might love a tar pit. There will come a day when paleontologists and archaeologists will be sifting through the rubble that will be 1600 Utica Avenue South, and they'll stumble across my skeletal remains and my cold, dead, rigor mortis-laden lips attached to this. Uh-oh. Hold on, Tenneby. Will be attached to this electro voice RE27, and they'll say EGAD. A social commentator with an archaic communication device. Excited and delighted to be with you today, live from our 651 Carpets Plus studios, home of the Next Day Install. We're here until 3. If you've never listened to the show before, early on, you'll go, well, this guy's unprepared. He's uninformed. He seems to be unapologetic about it, and that is true. The show that follows this is poised, polished, and professional. You'll want to stick around for Big Ticket, Dan Barrero and JG. Tenneby, all week we've been congratulating each other on a number of different accomplishments. The listeners have gotten into the routine as well. They've been congratulating us as well. And I would like to be the first to congratulate you on winning the District 3 Soil and Conservation.
Did I take it down?
You won.
Nice.
You only received 1 vote, but nobody else was
voted.
running.
Yeah.
And so you're it.
All right. When do I start?
Well, what I want to know is, did you come down from the hotel room last night and do a victory speech or anything like that? Or you were unaware you won, apparently, right?
I'm just hearing the news now.
You're just hearing the news now.
But I'm very excited.
Can I start the chant already? I don't know how many years it is, but let's go with 4 more years. 4 more years. What do you plan to do with dirt in Winona County? What are your plans for dirt?
I'm going to clean it up.
There you go.
Make sure it's clean. Make sure the water, I'm going to separate the dirt from the water.
Oh.
So that the water is clean.
4 more years. 4 more years. 4 more. You know, when we did our little election bit yesterday where we had, can you play the open and close again? This listener thought of this, but he sent it to Booth at Pizza Engineering Guy. He sent it to comment at KFAN.com, and I emailed him back last night. I said, during the show, you got to go with the text line because he came up with a great idea. So go play the open. This is what we did yesterday for election coverage.
It's time for a Common Man program, Indecision 2024 election update. Here's national election correspondent Tenna Beasy and senior political analyst, the Common Man Dan Cole.
And Tenna B, with 0 precincts reporting, the race is too close to call.
That was a Common Man program, Indecision 2024 election update.
Why didn't I go with the race is too close to call?
That would have been a good one, yeah.
And then you want somebody else, we call it Indecision. I just came up with that on the fly. Somebody accused me of stealing it from something called The Daily Show. Is The Daily Show, that's on Comedy Network, right? Is that what it's on?
Yes.
And apparently they called their election coverage Indecision 2024. And I think you know, Tenneby, I didn't steal that from him.
No.
It was just coincidence. I mean, look, I've stolen material before, and I'll admit it. Raquel Welch, she should be in 3D. 3D, that's my apartment. But that's not my bit. That was an old, I don't know if it was Henny Youngman or Rodney Dangerfield or who it was. But I guess great comic. Who's on The Daily Show? What is The Daily Show? Do we know? Do we have any indication?
Jon Stewart, though he's basically part-time now. He's rosened it where he just shows up like 1 day a week now.
Okay.
And then they have some others that I recognize, but I don't know their names.
So great comic minds think a lot alike sometimes. You know, and I guess you could say then my accusation that the Pat McAfee show is stealing material from me, they call it the Grum. What was the other thing they stole? Somebody else said they stole, what was it now? I think we brought it up on the air. I don't remember what it was, but they stole something from me again. So that's okay. You know, thievery is the sincerest form of flattery is what I've always said. So that's good. So congratulations on Soil and Water Conservation District. Nasri did not win the presidency as much as I tried. It just didn't work that way.
I would like to know how many votes he got, though.
I bet he did.
I bet he got a handful.
Because he's Nas Reed.
Yeah.
He's a folk hero here in Minnesota. Wolves play again tonight. Do we know? Do we have any indication of who they play? You know, I got accused of ignoring the Minnesota Timberwolves when they win. There at least one listener.
They're back tomorrow. They get the Bulls tomorrow.
Okay. There's one listener. There may be others that think the only time I bring up the Minnesota sports team is when they lose. Well, it's easier. I'm a gadfly. But I'm certainly not going to plead guilty to that. It's like, I think we've made this perfectly clear. We calls them as we sees them. But I think I said when the season first started, the NBA, and I know there are people that are saying, well, you're generalizing too much and that's a fallacy or that's fabricated. It's one of those old wives' tale that doesn't really exist. But I've always felt that the NBA, it's like, when the better teams in the league play the lesser teams in the league, they don't go at full throttle.
Yeah.
They just they go through the motions, and then when it's time to put the hammer down, they do, because it's 82 games. Some of them just seem like exhibitions. Well, because it is entertainment. So it's like, we got a show to do tonight, guys. This team can't beat us, but let's make it look good. And so, you know, you kind of go through it, and you know the other team makes a run early, because it seems like it happens all the time. The lesser team gets up early or makes a run, then the other team looks at their watch and goes, "Oh, started the third quarter." probably time now to go ahead and put this game away. And so, like, when they beat Orlando the other night, well, that was expected, right? Did anybody think they were going to lose to Orlando? They could have. It happens. And then when they do, then we get the litany of excuses. Well, we came out flat. We kind of overlooked them. Or we just didn't come out with a lot of energy. And you think to yourself, well, why did you overlook them? Why didn't you come out with some energy? So to break down any individual game. Now, it was fun breaking down the Dallas game a little bit. Now, they lost, which was not a good thing. But that's a key matchup early in the season. Same thing with the Denver game. These are games against other clubs that I don't know if you're necessarily trying to send a message early on, but you do want to beat those other teams because I guess you just to prove to yourself, hey, we're better, send a message to them. Those are the teams that you...
Like your jockeying position,
exactly.
Maybe a tiebreaker later on.
That's it. That's exactly it. So I think in that case, those games, like the Bulls, again, I shouldn't admit this working at the All Sports radio station. I haven't been following the Chicago Bulls basketball team closely for a long time, probably not since the days of Jordan and Pippen. So I don't even know if they're any good or not. My guess is they're mediocre at best, but maybe they're a great club. I don't know. A lot of people are saying they're a really good team, but
they're 3-4.
Yeah, so this is again. Is it in Chi-Town? Is it in the Windy City, or is it here at Bullseye? Either way, they should win. But I mean, obviously, when you're on the road, it's always you got the built-in excuse. We have to travel. Home
it's
court,
at Chicago tomorrow night.
Yeah, a home court advantage. You got to travel, but I would hope that they would take care of business. The one note that I thought that was interesting that we talked about, Tenneby, this was a couple of games ago where we were the top-ranked defensive team last year, and we were like 17th offensively, and that flipped in those first 4 or 5 games. Suddenly our defense wasn't as good, but our offense was better. So, it's sort of a balancing act there. I mean, you'd like to be rated the best offensive and the best defensive team, because if you are, chances are you're going to make a deep run into the playoffs. But it's early. I also asked the question, how long is it? Because we talked about why aren't some other players being used, and the comeback from some Wolves fans, and this makes sense. Well, you've got 2 new players, especially one new starter, the Julius Randle, that they got to gel and get acclimated and work with each other. I just wonder how long you use that theory. Do you do it 10 games in, 20? Will we be at 40 games and maybe it's not going as well as we want? And you go, well, they're still getting used to each other. I just wonder how long that will go. But more on that later. Your Wild Club, I think they lost last night.
They lost last night, yeah.
And I want to get your thoughts on that. Fiala, was he instrumental in the win?
He scored the go-ahead goal.
Yeah, so I want to get your thoughts on that. I'm sure you watched it being the Jolly Green Giant. So we'll break. When we return, we'll talk about the Wild, but right now Tenneby has a keyword to try to put $1,000 in your hand.
The Fan and 2 men in a junk truck want to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand with our national cash contest. Just enter the keyword grand at KFAN.com now for your shot at winning. The keyword is grand. Enter it now at KFAN.com. MMA fans, it's time. Join Max Fuller and Robbie Rosenhaus on November 16th for a UFC 309 watch party at the Ballpark Twin Cities in Blaine. They'll be hanging out starting at 7 p.m. through the main card with tons of prizes, including a big screen TV up for grabs, plus great drinks, scratch-made food, and batting cages, all available. Get the full details now at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Did you say Phil and Fuller and Robbie Rosenhaus will be hosting that?
Yes.
That's 2/3 of worst case scenario.
That is.
2/3 of worst case scenario. Time now for what we like to call Peek at the Purple, brought to you by Affordable Electric, dependable, honest, 24-hour or same-day service. They'll give you an upfront affordable estimate before starting any repair. Go to affordableelectric.com. Tenneby, you brought this to my attention. Shefty. They used to call them Woj bombs. I don't know if Sheft has any kind of clever little phrase they use to describe what he does, other than isn't he the guy that we suspect will, like, he'll send out tweets at like 2:30 in the morning to make everybody think he's just working round the clock, that he never sleeps, when he really probably just he went to bed at 9. and said, all right, I want this tweet to go out at 2:30, because you can do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what people
You can schedule tweets.
Yeah, you can schedule tweets. Now, this one was sent out at 9:36 a.m., so I don't suspect there was anything nefarious here. But he writes, Jaguars quarterback, and again, I apologize to the listener who texted not once but twice, was annoyed that Diego was calling them Jaguars. And then I don't think...
I have heard the liner since, and he does do Jaguars.
And I don't think he's a big fan, the listener, of me saying Jaguars, but you've come around to it.
It's more fun to say.
Yeah. Well, that's like, what do you think I like better? Do you think I like watching Bodega? Is it Bodega?
Like it's Bodega. Is it Bodega? Yeah.
What do you think I like better? Watching Bodega Cat play or saying Bodega Cat? Bodega. I like saying Bodega Cat. I think I love the way it sounds. I'm like a child. You know when a kid's in the crib and they put that little what's that thing that they put above that it spins around? It's got little.
Is it
things.
A mobile?
Yeah, a mobile. Stuck inside a mobile with the Memphis Blues again. And the little kid will look at me.
Or is it mobile? Or is it mobile?
Stuck inside a mobile. No, Bob Dylan says mobile, so it must be mobile. So, more money, more problems. So, words to me are sort of like the baby's mobile in the crib. It's just, I'm fascinated by that kind of thing. But, Jaguars, and that's our next opponent this coming Sunday, a game here on this radio station. They're not flexing this game, I hope. Right? There's this Jaguars against Vikings. So it's a 12 noon start, I imagine, coverage at 10. Jaguars quarterback Trev Lawrence will be Mr. Unlimited in practice today due to what Doug Peterson is calling an upper body injury. Peterson says it's too early to say if Lawrence will play on Sunday. I don't know how much of a difference it would make. I'm assuming they're a better team when Lawrence is under center, but yeah, I think you and I have discussed him a little bit, Teneby. He was he a number 1 pick overall?
Number 1 overall.
And that was 4 years ago, 5 years, whatever the case may be. And, there's always extenuating circumstance. Not every number 1 draft pick overall is the same. Sometimes if you don't have a lot of, generally if you're the first pick overall, you're going into a situation that's not very good, right?
Sure.
Because that's why the team is drafting number 1, is because they're a terrible team in a terrible city with terrible fans in a terrible stadium. And if the team is unable to put a lot of pieces around, even a good prospect, even a highly rated quarterback might have some struggles. But he's just not been like, whoa, right? He's okay. Would you say he's more than okay? Or
he had a rough rookie year. I'm trying to think of his second year. He got better, but then now he reverted in year 3, and year 4 has just still been kind of the same.
So I don't know who they have backing him up.
They got Mac Jones now, who I believe was drafted that same year by the New England Patriots, and he's already been dismissed.
When was Mac Jones? Was he like mid-teens?
He was around like 15, yeah.
I think he was 15 is what he was. I think he was 15 when he was drafted, too, at 15. So, but it is a development, obviously. They have now specified the injury more. They say it's left shoulder soreness, which means he's playing. Yeah.
It's not his throwing shoulder, and it's soreness.
Yeah.
He's playing.
Yeah. You know what I would tell him to do? Eat some dirt and rub a little Robitussin on it. You'll end up being just fine. So there's your peek at the purple today, brought to you by Affordable Electric. Visit them at affordableelectric.com. Shockingly affordable. Your Wild Club, they've gotten off to a terrific start. It's hard to argue. Particularly, I think I made this comparison the other day, Teneby. They sort of remind me of the Vikings in that, they're both from Minnesota, and I don't think expectations were really high for most people for the Vikings, nor were they for the Wild. Yet the Vikings got off to the 5-0 start, lost a couple, but they're 6-2. They're right in the thick of things in the NFC North and the NFC playoff picture. I think with the Wild, I'm guessing most observers figured it was going to be a trying season, to say the least. And are they going into last night's game? Were they 8-1-2
going into last night?
8-1-2. They lose last night. Now you'll have to help me with this. Was it a regulation? Was it a real loss? Was it an overtime loss? A shootout loss? What?
Well, I mean, they lost 5-1, so that one's not going overtime.
Okay, very good. So it was a 5-1 loss. Your thoughts on the Wild's performance last night?
I mean, through the first 30, 35-ish minutes, I mean, this is pretty, I don't want to say lopsided, but they were giving LA nothing offensively. I mean, if you would have told me halfway through this game that the Kings were going to end up with 5 goals, I would not have believed you, because for the longest time, they just had 2 shots on goal. I thought maybe halfway through the second period, they yielded like 5 shots on goal against the Kings. And they got the 1-0 lead on the Bogosian shot, on the Bogosian goal, and thought they were going to be in good shape. Now, during that stretch, the first period and a half, they had missed some chances to score offensively to kind of make it be a little more, give yourself a little more wiggle room than they did. But once LA got the first one, it just felt like the floodgates opened a little bit. They got a power play goal out of Fiala to go 2-1, and it just seemed like the Wild were chasing ever since then. And it just feels like and part of that too was Kaprizov took a puck to the face, so he was hurt and was out for a little while.
Yeah, bloody lip, right?
It does go to show you, and we all knew how much they depended on him. Because not only is he on your top line, he's your top scorer, they double shift him quite a bit. Where he can play with other lines at times, and they're not going to spend as much time in the offensive zone. They're not going to have as flow in the game without Kaprizov, and they suffered greatly without him. By the time he came back, they were chasing the rest of the game. And
it's interesting you use the phrase chasing, and otherwise they were Kadiring it. They were Kadiring it. They were being like Michael Kadire. Michael just chased.
Yep.
You have to have a better at bat there. And last night you have to have a better hockey game than you had. But again, you're not going to win them all. So I guess there's not any reason to really.
In the Wild, we've seen them in the playoffs when they've struggled in previous years. Obviously, they didn't make the playoffs last year, but years before that, they seemed to struggle against teams that had bigger, stronger forwards. And that's how the Kings were scoring a couple of their goals last night. Just scramble goals in front of Gustafsson, where he's seeing second shot, third shot opportunities. I thought the Wild center play defensively in their own zone last night was not very good. Husnudinov, I thought, was the cause of 2 goals against. Rossi failed to tie up on one of them.
Kaprizov.
So you got some undersized defensemen, and you got some, other than Joel Eriksson-Ek, you have some undersized centers. And that was exposed a little bit in front of their own net last night.
How would we call the line the Holy Rollers? Because they roll their R's. Zuccarello, Rossi, and Kaprizov. No, let's not go down that road again. When did the Wild lace them up again, Tenneby?
They go West Coast road trip, or at least the first 2 games are on the West Coast. Late one tomorrow night, 9:30 in San Jose.
Yeah.
And San Jose is in complete rebuild mode. They should be one of the worst teams in hockey.
My guess is you'll DVR that one.
Well, I mean, it's at 9:30, so it's kind of hard to watch it at DVR and then watch it later. Like that's one of the few I can watch live, because kids will be in bed.
I see, right.
Kids will be in bed.
Sure.
I don't have any hockey practice going on at 9:30, so I'll actually watch that one live.
When you watch a hockey game, do you also not eat a snack because it'll weigh you down and you'll fall asleep watching it? Because I know when you play hockey, you won't eat.
A big game tonight,
It's a big. They're all big, regardless of what night they play them. We'll pause. We'll come back. I want to respond to a text message someone sent to me. It raises some interesting issues. It's controversial, to say the least. We'll take a look at that next. Common Man program on the Fan.
Tune in to 9 to noon every Tuesday as PA broadcast live from TCO to talk all things purple. TCO Tuesdays are powered by Suck Up Manufacturing.
Should be a couple of 13-14 past. I'm Common. He is Tenneby. A lot of different ways that you can get a hold of us here at the Fan. 1-800-320-5326. Good luck with that. We never answer the phone. There's also the... what's our email inbox called? Do we even have a name for it anymore?
Is it written on there?
No, I don't see it.
On your computer at all?
No, I don't see it. Our email address, booth@kfan.com. Good luck with that. I rarely check that anymore. No one wants to use it anymore. Talkback, we occasionally dip into that. That's a simple way, though, too. That's where you download if you got the iHeartRadio app, search for stations, find the Fan. tap the microphone icon in the corner of the screen. You got 30 seconds or less to deliver us an audio message. The best way to get a hold of us, and the most popular, is what we call the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line, or the Holla Hotline, at 64686. And this, Mike in New Richmond writes, comment on the sports. No. He wants to talk about Bud Grant's statement. I'm not sure what he's talking about. Here's the one I wanted. This is from the 651. Can Common explain why he never applies his logic of taking games off in the NBA to the NHL? They each have long 80-game seasons. I don't know. Should I? I've heard the accusation, and I've seen it for myself in basketball. I just know what my eyes are telling me. Now, could it be just the other team is just really trying to give it everything they got, and they're attacking the better team early on? I suppose that's possible. I just think it's human nature to, for instance, tend to be one, you're kind of a try-hard and a sweaty, but when you're like playing, like when I would play, there's a video that still, you can find it on YouTube. It's from years ago. It was when Deuce and baby brother Peter were just little kids, and we're playing street hockey in the winter on our driveway. Right now I'm in goal. And could I stop every shot they took at me? Yeah, more than likely. I even check a couple of them into a snowbank. Could I have really hit them hard into the snowbank? Yeah. But you let them stay around for a while, because at any moment you can turn things around. This might be a bad analogy, but you get my drift, right? When you it's like when you can. It was like in golf when you have handicaps. Hey, I'm a lot better than you, so I'm going to give you a stroke hole, right? So in the NBA, it's like we're let you guys have your fun, and then come fourth quarter, bring it to the ticket, right? In hockey, Tennessee, do you think it just seems hockey, because it's so physical and dangerous, that if you start skating slowly and taking it easy, you're going to get broadsided by somebody that checks you. There just seems like there's a greater chance to be hurt. But do hockey teams, do you think, actually take games off during the season where it's like, I'm just not going to put forth the effort tonight?
I think in hockey, it's hard to just completely be lazy and to not try. But I would also say there's still levels of work ethic, right? Like if we watch an NHL playoff game, it looks different than an NHL regular season. That doesn't mean they're not working hard in the regular season, but if you're going 100% in the postseason, maybe they're going 95% in the regular season. Still working hard, but in the postseason, it's like I've always said, if you're playing game 6 and it's an elimination game, guess what? That guy goes to take a slap shot, you're putting your body in front of it, right? In the regular season, you might put your body in front of it, but you might also go, well, I'm going to let that shot go through. Or, your ability to give and receive and take hits in the boards. And,
right.
The amount of energy you would exert delivering a body check, whereas maybe in a regular season, I'm not going to finish this check here. He's going to pass the puck to his teammate anyway, right? So why am I going to go in and exert that energy and risk harm? So
you pick your spots maybe a bit more during the regular season.
I don't ever watch a regular season game and go, man, that team's being lazy tonight. Or you don't ever say that team's not working hard, but there is still like another gear in them that once they get to the postseason, they're doing. Okay,
that makes sense. So maybe I should start ripping NHL for taking time off. I don't know.
Well, like in the NHL, it's not, NBA, you'll just see times where there's a guy shooting a three-pointer. I'm not going to go out there and go after him. Right? That doesn't really happen in hockey. That's a fast-paced game. You're constantly moving.
Yeah.
But every single player, like there's a certain level of exhaustion you get, and you do have to pace yourself of, all right, I got to work hard in these spots. These spots, I got to conserve my energy a little bit.
Here's a text message. And Tennessee, we take the thought. I hope I didn't just play a commercial, did I?
No.
And I thought.
Please don't, though.
No, I just thought I triggered something.
Oh, you just copied our liner.
Oh.
You added another one.
Oh, sorry about that. I was trying to drag down Common Man page 2. You taught me how to drag things down. I know how to do that. I've been knowing how to do that for a couple of years.
Your morale has been dragging me down.
Wait, hold on a second.
For a long time.
Let me give you, first of all, a rim shot, and then give you a...
I really love the positive energy and the vibe, and every show's unique. We never do the same show over and over again.
Well, and, I do have a positive vibe. Here's from the 6763 comment. I've been listening to you since I was 13, 14 years old. I'm now 19. You bring so much understanding to the world of sports, and how I should ultimately become a fan of the Lions. I bring so much understanding to the world of sports. It's called the esoteric approach, and I am proud of it. And I do like to share that with the listeners. We're list
We didn't even talk about my Chiefs the other night, by the way. They stayed undefeated against Tampa Bay.
They did stay undefeated.
So my three teams have a combined 3 losses.
Yeah.
And one of the losses is to one of the other teams in that 3.
You're one of those front-runner guys. Front-running.
You must not have watched the Chiefs game, because there was a moment in that Chiefs game where I thought of you, because I know exactly what you would have been thinking.
What do you think of Baker Mayfield now?
No. Tampa Bay scores at the end of regulation. They opt to go for the extra point to tie the game and force overtime instead of... You got to go for 2 there. You're going against the Kansas City Chiefs. You don't give Pat Mahomes any more opportunities than he already has.
And so they tied it, and then they went down and scored? Is that what happened?
So Kansas City won the coin flip in overtime, and they scored a touchdown on their first drive. Yeah. So Tampa Bay never touched the ball. They had a chance to win the game. Now, Kansas City still would have had... It was like 20, 30 seconds left to get into field goal range, so they still technically could have won in regulation. But out of the Kansas City Chiefs, of all the opponents, after you just had a nice, thorough drive down the field, score touchdown, well, how do you not go for it there?
Yeah, if I understand, because there's always... Well, I don't understand, but here's my own explanation to that. Is the coach, is he thinking more about, if we don't get the 2-point conversion, I'm going to get ripped and lambasted by the media, fans. I don't want to go through that. I'll go ahead and tie the game. So we're playing a good game. We're going to try to get the coin toss and keep playing. But I'm with you at that stage. And it's not in every case. What game over the weekend, Rams-Seattle, went to overtime, did it not?
Yes, because the Rams won in overtime.
They could have gone for 2, I think, if I remember. I think I remember this correctly. And most of the time I say go ahead and try to win the game. But I think in that case, for some reason, I didn't mind them kicking the extra point. Though normally I don't know why I was thinking that way. I have to investigate. Maybe there's something wrong with me, because I've always been a guy that says, win it right now. Instead of depending upon a coin toss, a 50-50 coin flip, right? That you might lose. And like you say, Kansas City drove down the field. You don't even get to touch the ball. And ultimately, what are you trying to do in overtime? Get the ball. You want to score a tutty, if you have to settle for a field goal. You're trying to drive down to the 2-yard line and have a play that scores. Now, I know if you get first and goal from the 6, all of a sudden you got, you have 3, even 4 plays if you want. But if you tell me, take my chances with a coin flip, and then if I don't win, we got to stop them and have them settle for a field goal at worst. Then we got to drive down the field. Or, God, I could take the lead right now and probably win the game, like you say, with 20 or 30 seconds left with Mahomes. I fell asleep during Monday night, Sunday night, regardless of what night they play. I thought Tampa Bay looked pretty... That's not a bad football team.
And they're missing their 2 best wide receivers, too.
Yeah. Nico Collins, did you say?
No, he plays for Houston.
Oh, Houston.
Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
Evans and Godwin. Yeah, I like... And do you like Mayfield? I'm not saying I think that... what's his name?
Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield is one of the best quarterbacks in football. He makes mistakes. I just like him because he's like gritty to me. He had a play early in that game where he wanted to get in, and this can be dangerous. I'm not saying this makes him a good quarterback, but he put his head down and worked for the extra yards. That can be dangerous, but he just seems like he's one of those kind of guys that he makes
a little chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, and he makes some bad throws. He's going to throw some picks, but I think the kid's got talent. I think you can do worse than Baker Mayfield.
He wasn't that bad in Cleveland. Like he was kind of middle of the road in Cleveland. It wasn't like a Sam Darnold situation where he's just awful. Hey, we got to get rid of this guy. And they opted not to pay him, and I don't blame him because at the time, like I said, he was middle of the road, and I'm not throwing a big contract around to a middle of the road quarterback who's not elite. But
right,
he's I doubted him, and he's impressed in Tampa Bay for 2 years.
He's he seems like he's the kind of guy that players like, teammates like.
A little bit of a gunslinger, too.
Yeah, and he's tough, and he puts his head on. I think the other players on the team like that, sort of like.
But I thought their offense was going to fall apart once Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were hurt, and all of a sudden he's made their tight end, Cade Otton, look like a star over the last couple of weeks, and you probably couldn't even name another wide receiver on that team.
I think he's kind of the quarterback version of Dan Campbell. I think the players like playing for Danny Campbell. I think he's got that tough guy mentality and that, that coach speak stuff that people like. He's really popular in the locker room. And you know where else he's really popular, tend to be? Is in Detroit. Did you hear the results last night? 2% went for Trump, 4% for Kamala. 94% of those voted for Dan Campbell for president. 94% of those who cast a ballot in Detroit voted for Danny Campbell. The Joel Embiid saga, in which he shoved a columnist, had some words with Marcus Hayes. The punishments come down. CBS Sports Story says 76er star Joel Embiid's been suspended 3 games by the NBA for shoving Philadelphia Inquirer columnist Marcus Hayes. The incident occurred in Philadelphia's locker room after Saturday's game between the Sixers and the Grizz, a victory that Embiid did not participate in. The altercation stemmed from a column published in October by the Inquirer. That column, written by Hayes, criticized Embiid for missing games, but mentioned both Embiid's brother Arthur, who died in a 2014 car accident, and Embiid's young son, who shares Arthur's name. The story has since been edited to remove mentions of either relative. League Executive Vice President Joe Dumars said in a statement from the NBA, mutual respect is paramount to the relationship between players and media in the NBA. While we understand Joel was offended by the personal nature of the original version of the reporter's column, interactions must remain professional on both sides and can never turn physical, which I agree to. But I just find it kind of ironic, if I'm using the word correctly,
Patrick,
that the complaint that some have levied against Embiid is not being available to play, and now his punishment is to give him 3 days off. And these are excused absences, right? I mean, This is not like, well, he's a load management. He's just not playing because it's back-to-back games, or they don't think this team is good enough. They're just giving him more days off. It's like, that doesn't make it. They should have said, you'll be forced to play the next 3 games. That's what they should have done.
You can't leave the court.
Yeah, and you can't leave the court. That's the punishment they should have dealt out. Joel probably thinks, maybe I'll shove another columnist before the season's over and I can get a whole week off. So that's the punishment. I was rolling my eyes, shrugging my shoulders, and shaking my head on that one. Tenneby, what do we like more than anything on the Common Man program? List radio. You know why? Because it's lazy radio. NFL Power rankings have come out. Let's take a look at some of them. First of all, tend to be ESPN NFL Week 10 Power Rankings, how all 32 teams stack up. Who do you think ESPN ranks as the best team? This is with all of Monday night's action in the books. So this was released yesterday, Tuesday. Who do you think they have?
Well, I think there's only 2 options. It's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs or the Detroit Lions.
And they have selected the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs lead in the race for the AFC's #1 playoff seed. The Bills are one of the few teams that can realistically catch them. If Buffalo wins, the race might get interesting down the stretch. If the Chiefs win, they can start making plans for a bye work during wild card weekend. They're talking about the Week 11 game, which is that next? No, Week 10 coming up, right?
Week 10's coming up.
The Bills KC game will be good. I mean, a lot will be on the line for that game. They've got the Kitties at #2. Says Lions All-Pro offensive tackle Penny Sewell said he rewatched last year's NFC Championship game loss to the 49ers at least 10 times in the offseason.
Wow.
After blowing a 17-point halftime lead, the Lions want revenge against San Francisco. That game still stings. Yes, the Week 15 game against the Bills is perhaps the toughest remaining matchup, but facing the 49ers again for a Monday Night Football showdown will be the perfect shot at redemption. That is That's week 17.
That's probably the biggest difference between Penei Sewell and me, our mindsets, and why he is playing in the National Football League and I'm an interim producer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the kind of guy that if I fail on a video, I'm not watching that
You
again.
don't want to watch it again.
Or he's just watching it over and over again, just making himself angry, trying to motivate himself.
Yeah, but
that's why him and I are different.
You're not so different. You won an election yesterday. You're the District 3 Soil and Conservation Officer for Winona. You're a winner. They got the Bills at 3. Did the Bills get off to a bad start, or am I wrong there?
They're pretty mediocre the first couple games.
And now they're 7-2. Ravens are at number 4 at 6. That's the scary team, I think.
Didn't they just lose, though?
Yeah, they did. They did.
Who'd they lose to?
No, they beat the Broncos.
It was the week before. Yeah, they crushed the Broncos.
Yeah,
the week before they lost.
Do you do this? I don't think about spread swing much, but when I see results like 41-10, I go, why didn't I take the Ravens?
I know.
Why couldn't I see that coming?
Yes, and it should have been pretty obvious.
Now, do you think Sean Payton's the coach of the Broncos, right?
Yes.
Do you think he's well liked by anybody? Because I know here in Minnesota we don't like him.
We don't like him.
Right,
he doesn't like us.
And he doesn't like us. He just seems like, I guess what I was trying to start a controversy here, that Harbaugh decided to run it up on Sean Payton. But I don't have any proof of that. I don't know if other people don't.
They seem to just run it up on everybody.
Yeah, well, Payton, the Sean Payton guy just seems to be so smarmy, so full of himself. They got the Commanders at number 5, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And then your soon-to-be big game world champion Minnesota Vikings locked in at number 6.
I was wondering if they'd have the Eagles in front of us. Go Eagles.
Well, they got Steelers at 7, Packers at 8, Eagles at 9.
Okay.
But here's what...
Eagles have won 4 in a row.
Here's what I have for you, Tennessee. I guess I understand when I read that. They have, most important game remaining for each of these teams. They say it's the Packers game, week 17.
For us?
Yeah, and their explanation is, at this point, the Lions are in the driver's seat in the North. The Vikings have already lost to them once, and they have a worse conference record when it comes to tiebreaker. Beating the Packers and sweeping the season series could well be key to them securing a wild card berth. The Vikings have already won at Lambeau and would presumably have the advantage in the second matchup as well. Kevin Seifert writes that for ESPN.
I think there's some logic to that.
There was some logic to that, but I still think that it could end up being that Lions game, depending upon what happens, because the Lions are going to face San Francisco and they're going to face Buffalo. San Francisco's got McCaffrey back now, right?
Yep, he's coming back.
Is Debo hurt?
I never know with him anymore. He's sometimes it's hurt, sometimes it's not. I can't keep up with his injury list anymore.
I know San Francisco hasn't been playing as well this year as they have last year, and maybe in the last few recent seasons. But I'm not ready to write them off. So with Detroit still having Buffalo, they have another game with Green Bay. They have San Francisco, and who else? I think they have another quality opponent. I know the Lions are playing really well, and I've been cocking off a lot, but I'm sorry, the way the league operates, there's no guarantee the Lions win any of those. Well, I shouldn't say.
So they're still at Houston this week, which can be pesky.
That could be pesky.
Then you've got Jacksonville, at Indianapolis, home to Chicago. Then you got that tough stretch at the end where it's home to Green Bay, home to Buffalo, at Chicago, at San Francisco, home to the Vikings.
Yeah, so I still get the sneaking suspicion, because I think both teams are going to uphold their end of the bargain. I think Week 18 is going to decide the division.
I think the Lions will have the division.
You think they will?
They'll be resting starters that week. The Minnesota Vikings, Sam Darnold's going to be an MVP candidate because KOC is a brilliant coach. We're coming. I
just like the way the negatrometer still works after all these years. It hurts, doesn't it? It's nothing you want. Yeah. It's nothing you want to deal with. You could be right.
It shockingly hurts.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I don't know. I will say I was pretty confident they were going to beat Green Bay. I even said it. And I told you this. I never feel that way about the Kitties. I never have. I just felt like we were going to go into Curly and win the game, and they certainly did. So still coming up yet, 1:30, the legendary Brian Oak. He has a podcast, the Brian Oak Podcast. He joins us for Rock Talk at 1:30. The legendary Mark Rosen makes his triumphant return just prior to 2 o'clock. Top of the hour, we start the 1 o'clock hour off with a segment we call 534, and Tennessee, as always, has a tease.
It's our annual mid-season NFL awards next.